Another question which was actually found very interesting is, you
Mhm.
obviously said that for an electric vehicle, instead of
Mhm.
frontal crash, side crash is more important. But
Yes.
then I don't know who asked this question, but this is very interesting.
Mhm.
For an electric vehicle, are there new tests that have to be performed?
Yes. The battery structure alone, by itself, has a lot of tests that it has to meet. There
Okay.
is a lot of debris penetration tests, and then there is like a China. It's just the battery itself hitting against a pole, like a
Okay.
side crash test. Like, so there is all those intrusion requirements. Um, those kind of tests are there, and then battery electric vehicle itself, they have any kind of crash test you do, if it's a battery electric vehicle, they put the vehicle on this kind of a, I mean, I would in loose terms I would call it like in India how they have this barbecue, this thing,
Yeah,
or
a grill.
US, uh, this thing, and then they would turn the vehicle
Oh,
90
okay.
degrees,
Okay.
so that they would see if the any is there any leakage, like battery leakages.
Interesting.
So they would turn it 90 degrees and wait it for half an hour, turn it 90 degrees, wait for half an hour to see if there is any leaks of the battery, because they cannot tear it down at the crash testing facility, right? So this
Yeah.
is what they do. They hoist the vehicle, like turn it 90 degrees every half an hour to see if there is any kind of leak. So there is difference for that way for a battery electric vehicle.
Weight reduction is obviously a very nice strategy to get more efficiency, mechanical
Hmm.
efficiency. But then
Yeah.
how do you balance weight reduction and structural integrity, keeping the cost in mind? This question
Yeah,
is from
that's
Ashwin.
okay. That's the battle we all, as crash engineers, have to fight, because the higher management puts a target, like for like the total gross vehicle of the gross vehicle weight at some certain range, but then we as crash engineers, we put down as the minimum requirement for crash. We definitely need this, and then it's not only the crash requirement. There is a different team, like the structure and durability to teams also. So for some regions, some areas of the vehicle, we can say it's not crash relevant. We can make it as low as possible, like the thicknesses, but then it won't meet durability or structural analysis, and they'll fail in those components will fail over there. So they will also chip in to add that mass. So it's always a constant back and forth between all these different teams to meet this mass targets.
So between durability and say crash worthiness, right? Typically, how
Mhm.
many back and forth cycles happen? I mean, is there a limit, or can you just talk about that a bit?
Yeah, I mean, so we work as a team. I mean, we kind of interact on a regular basis because it's almost like a similar models what we use,
Right.
on the same level or the same gate level it would be. And so we have to constantly interact and let each other know like what are the changes we are making. So based on that, we update our models or they update their models and run the analysis. So it's like on a constant basis, we almost work hand in hand.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Great. So Vedant, the
Mhm.
next topic that I want to talk about is, role of artificial intelligence and machine learning, and I'll kind of give you a background to it. See, the
Okay.
whole concept of autonomous machine, say in computational fluid dynamics, and
Hmm.
also, finite element analysis is there. So, for example, if you want to just get tria mesh throughout your model,
Hmm.
um, you know, pretty much any meshing package out there can do it very easily, but the results are obviously not going to be right,
Yeah.
right? So and that's where there is the role of the model building engineer or the machine engineer is super important. But then
Yes.
with advances in artificial intelligence, right? So for example, AI can now play chess. It can do a whole lot of tasks,
Hmm.
and it can do them very, very well. So
Hmm.
what do you think is going to happen, especially for the pre-processing stage of crashworthiness? Do you feel like that's a task that will be eventually automated 100%? What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I would think it cannot be 100% automated. There has to be some level of human this thing. I mean, I understand like the meshing can be automated to a certain extent. I mean, we
Right.
have tried a lot of different packages which claim to do that, but we haven't found anything that's like really out there, which was like can do the job, right? I mean, see, automation is more of like pattern recognition, but every OEM, the vehicle is so different, and the way it is built or way it is modeled or the way it is put together is totally different. So AI has that difficulty of not recognizing a pattern, and then each mesh is a different this thing based on the part. The mesh changes, right? Meshing is like could be automated to a certain level, but for me, what I see is the biggest drawback is joineries, like the inter subsystem or even within a subsystem, all the connections and this thing, the connections is the difficult part, I would say. I mean, Answer claims to have it automated to a large extent, but even that is not a click of a button. There has to be a human
Verify
interference.
everything.
Yes, yeah.
Makes sense. That was very helpful.
Oh, okay. While defining I mean, I think somebody, what they're asking for is a cross section forces while you're defining. It's mainly you would use the local coordinate system. I mean, sorry, the global coordinate system. That's because usually when you're measuring the forces, like for a frontal crash, you want the forces going from X direction, right? So you would want front to back. So that's why you would define using the global coordinate system. But there are some particular areas of the vehicle where the cross section have to be oriented in a at an angle from the global. So at that locations, you would define a local coordinate system. So that's what I would suggest say. The Lucid new EV design. So Lucid Motors design is really excellent, is because they waited for a long time to put the team together. They got one of the best peoples together to um, put the company together, and the design is really awesome. It's an aluminum structure, and they've looked into pretty much every detail that can be looked into. Uh, Price, I think the first edition is around 140, $140,000. The subsequent ones is going to be somewhere around close to 70,000. So there are Indian regulations too. I'm not actually, if you go back to that safety Wizen book, there is Indian regulations also mentioned, and they update this safety Wizen every year, and the safety Wizen will have regulations from across the world, and it will be latest up to date. So there is a 2021 version also, which was recently released. So you can download that and take a look at what the current Indian standards are. I would say to a certain extent, design background would be good, because once you do a crash analysis and you have some certain results, the quicker way would be to, if you could model your part by yourself and then plug it into mesh it and plug it into your analysis vehicle and then run the analysis, you would be more valuable, and because you could quickly turn around the results. So I would suggest a little bit of design background would not hurt. And sometimes what happens is, like, if a part is developed and um, the BIW team or like the closure team would just give you a part number, it would be worthwhile your this thing to go into your CAD environment and download the part and everything. So it's good to have.
Got it.
Yes. So crash analysis does apply to non-metal composites also, because a lot of um, companies are even looking into using carbon fiber parts in crash analysis. That's one of the component they want to use as to reduce weight, because it's much lighter, but it's quite strong as it could come quite strong as steel or even aluminum, right? So they are working on composite parts, and I know we understand that plastics have that this thing of getting back to shape after crash, but um, parts which are usually made as from carbon fiber composites, they kind of shatter in the crash event. So we have to run crash analysis on them. Yes, we do. That is like a big big deal. When I was working at General Motors, we would always do this before we even ran the crash analysis, because this would change results quite considerably. So we would pre-stress the components before it even went into the actual analysis itself.
Okay.
To do this, yeah, it's a fairly tedious process. GM had an internal code that was written, which would measure the forming details, and then we would assign, um, I forget what it, assign a number to this components, and then the stresses would. So you would see the stresses before the analysis would even start. So
It's
yeah,
almost like a very good initial condition, right?
yes, it's a very good initial condition. Yes, that's correct.
Makes sense.